Have you ever wondered what it's like to own your own business? Be your own boss? Welcome to Season 7 of Business Mentorship, Keepin' It Real, where we meet with corporate leaders who have taken the leap to business owner and join us as part of the shareyourstoriesonline series. Hello, I'm Trish Tonak, and today we're going to meet a small business owner, celebrate their great idea, and introduce you to the person behind the logo. We invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome to the show. Our guest joins us from Bozeman, Montana. Jennie Milton is the founder of Adrenajen. She's a world champion snowkiter, keynote speaker, and coach who helps women over 40 find courage, overcome fear, and build bold confidence. Jennie uses the tagline, "Fear is something we all face, but courage is a choice." Jennie's going to share her story on entrepreneurship and give us a behind-the-scenes look into the life of a small business owner. I'd like to welcome and introduce everyone to Jennie.
Hello, everybody. Thanks so much for having me, Trish, on your show. This is fantastic.
Now, I hear that there's an Australian accent there, but I know that you're now living in the United States, correct?
That is correct. I should say, g'day, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
I have been living in Montana for about 15 to 20 years. I fell in love with a man from Montana. They do breed good men up here.
There you go. Well, for our viewing and listening audience who have no idea what a champion snowkiter is, perhaps you can explain, because it's an extreme sport, correct?
It is. It is an extreme sport.
So what is snow kiting all about?
Well, it's actually a combination of extreme sports, Trish. I mean, many people have heard of kiteboarding or kite surfing. And let me explain the difference between that first. Kiteboarding is where we actually use, very similar to a wakeboard. It's a twin tip board. It's great for going both directions, doing tricks and jumps. And then there's what's called kite surfing. And the difference is we use a surfboard on our feet, and the goal is to catch as many waves as we can. So that's kiteboarding. Kite surfing. Now let me introduce you to snow kiting, which is where we have either skis or a snowboard on our feet, and we're still using the same kite, but instead of being on water, we are getting towed around on the snow. We might start off on a snow-covered flat lake or field. And then as we get better, we can start using the kite to actually tow us up mountains, like having our own personal ski lift. So snow kiting is really a combination of skiing and snowboarding, extreme sport, and kiteboarding, extreme sport.
How on earth did you ever get interested in such a sport?
Well, it's actually a funny story. For my 30th birthday, I gifted myself a trip to Alaska to go heli skiing. I mean, it's a dream come true for any advanced skier. And when you fly from Australia to Alaska, on the way back, my plane was stopping in Hawaii. And I was like, wow, this is fantastic. I can stop in Hawaii for a week and get some kiteboarding lessons. I'd always wanted to learn. And back then, in the early 2000s, there were very few schools around teaching. And so I brought a kite with me to Alaska in the plan to learn how to use it in Hawaii. But while I was up in Alaska, I met somebody else that had kites, and we actually started playing around, flying our kites on snow with our skis and our snowboard on. So in a way, we just sort of invented it. We weren't the first ones to snow kite. There's definitely been people doing it for a long time. But in our world, we were just figuring it out, having some fun on a day when the helicopters couldn't fly.
Very cool. Now, how did you get into your own business? We know that you're a keynote speaker. Obviously, you took the snow kiting to a whole different level and became a champion. And you're also a coach. But how did you make the transition into being an entrepreneur?
Great question. I've always been an entrepreneur. My mum and dad were entrepreneurs. In fact, when I was born, they had their own retail business in Australia. It was a sports store. So my
Of
brother and
course.
I, my brother and I grew up skiing in the wintertime. In the summer, we would sail. And whenever a new craze or sport came into fashion, of course, mum and dad were selling them in their store. And my brother and I got to test out all of these sports. So from a very young age, I grew up with retailers, entrepreneur parents, and I really knew no different but to continue working for myself. So when I turned 18, snowboards were coming into fashion, but the skiers and the snowboarders didn't get along. So my parents decided they better open a separate store to house the snowboards. And we called it Adrenaline Sports. And I became the manager of that store, and I got to build that business how I wanted as a young person and as an adrenaline addict. So we had snowboards, we had rollerblades and skateboards and all the shoes, and the young people would come and shop with me. And then the old timers would go and shop with my parents. So that was really the first introduction to running my own business, and it ended up being over $1 million turnover. And this we're talking a long time ago, so that was a lot of
A
money
lot of
back then.
money. Exactly.
And I
Exactly.
had 10 full-time staff. They were all men, and so I was, a woman running a business with a bunch of staff, a bunch of products. We were the biggest Burton dealer in Australia, hence why I've got all these Burton snowboards behind me. It's a piece of artwork, and it was just part of my way of living. I knew no other way but to run my own business. So when I went to Alaska and went heli skiing, like I mentioned, I fell in love with Alaska. I fell in love with the people. I fell in love with the mountains. And I especially fell in love with the sexy heli ski guide named Steve, who is now my husband of 18 years. So I was in this transitional phase of, well, am I going to move country? How am I going to live? How am I going to work? What am I going to do? And I ended up selling my business in Australia, which was a process, a learning curve in itself.
Mhm, mhm.
And I found myself, instead of that once in a lifetime trip to Alaska, it's now 24 times in a lifetime. And so how was I going to earn money when I was living in an RV in the middle of Alaska in the mountains so that I could be with my husband? And ultimately, snow kiting was my passion. It was fun. And some of my earlier jobs, I'd already been a ski instructor when I was very young. I'd already been a rollerblade instructor. So it came very naturally to me when people said, "Wow, Jen, that snow kiting looks amazing. Can you teach us?" It was very natural for me to want to teach them. And I found that when the helicopters couldn't fly, which was every stormy or windy day, was actually really good for snow kiting. And I had a funnel of clients of adrenaline junkies who were in Alaska to go heli skiing who wanted to try something new. And that was how my business of teaching people to snow kite was born.
Wow, what a great story. Give us a little bit of a background into this whole idea about the difference between fear and courage. Because I think as humans, each and every one of us has experienced fear of some sort, right? In life. I mean, that's kind of, we're presented with those challenges. But you've actually made it into not only a business tagline, but a lifestyle image by saying that, courage and fear, you can overcome your fear, and courage is a choice. How does that, give us some background into that?
Well, fear is something we all have. It's like we all have an appetite to eat. Fear is something that is ingrained in us to keep us safe when we are in danger of our lives. They talk a lot about fight, flight, freeze. And
Right.
if there's a wild animal like a polar bear charging you, oh my gosh, of course you are going to do whatever it takes to survive.
Sure.
But in this modern world, we are also experiencing that fear when we're doing something new, when we're doing something outside of our comfort zone. It could be applying for a new job, standing on a stage, asking that boy out on a date. I mean, whatever it is, we feel that fear. And we can either run away like they're a polar bear, or we can realize that, ask ourselves, are our lives really in danger? And should I run away, or should I actually make this move in my life or business? And in
Mhm.
order to make that move when you're feeling fear, we need to find courage.
Mhm.
And courage is a choice. That is the point where we make that choice. Do I find courage to do that scary thing, or do I run away? Like, part of my intuition is telling me to run
Sure,
away.
for
And I
sure.
found this was very relevant when I was teaching people to snow kite. I found myself not just teaching them how to hold an edge, how to hold the kite, how to use the wind, but especially women. When I was running my women's snow kite camps, they would arrive and they would be scared and they would be so nervous that they were going to hurt themselves. Should I even be doing this? And I found myself having to share some of the lessons I've learned as an extreme athlete to help them overcome their fear, find that courage, because when you do find the courage, boy,
Can be
all of
pretty
a
fun.
sudden you are feeling proud of yourself, and that's where confidence comes in. I like
Right.
to say that fear can be the problem, courage is the solution, and then
Yeah.
confidence, that's the reward.
Yeah, that's so true. What a wonderful way to look at that. Now, as an author, you've written a book called Gale and the Red Kite of Courage. So I'm sure that in your book, you talk about the sort of fight or flight and how to overcome. There we go. Perfect. Who's the target market for the book?
Well, first of all, Gail, does she look familiar?
Just a wee bit.
So Gale is named after Gale Force Wind, and Gale is actually based on a true story about myself as a young child and how I found courage and joy flying a kite. And something so simple as flying a kite, whether it's in extreme environments like the mountains or the big waves, or whether you're just a little kid going out with your dad and flying that kite for the first time, you're going to feel fear of the wind, fear of it pulling you over, fear of not being good enough, not being able to do it. And so I made the decision that somebody said, Jen, you should write a book. And instantly I had fear. I had that imposter syndrome of, oh, my vocabulary isn't that large. Most of my words are Australian, and people don't understand them. And how could I write a book? And I made the decision to write a children's book, which was so fun to work with an illustrator, and she did such an amazing job. But I told the story of when I was a little girl and my brother got cancer. And this is a true story. He lost his leg to cancer. He had to have it amputated, and he was 9 and I was 11. And at that very young age, it was a very traumatic time for all of
For
us. Of
sure.
course, his trauma of losing a leg is something that most of us can't even imagine, but also the trauma of a sibling that goes through that. And I had a lot of depression at that point, and I found myself inside my bedroom, not wanting to play with friends, not wanting to play with all my sporting equipment. And it wasn't until my own brother, going through his trauma, bought me a kite for my birthday, and my dad took me outside, and I got outside my room and I started flying this kite, and it really brought me so much joy, and I started feeling proud of myself, which is a difficult road for to when you're
Yeah.
in depression to
Yeah, for
start
sure.
enjoying life again. And I wanted to share that with kids who might be dealing with childhood cancer. So I've made sure that book is in lots of hospitals, lots of libraries, lots of schools, and the proceeds have been donated to a children's cancer charity. So it really, writing that book became just such a project for so many reasons,
Mhm.
and I'm so proud of it. But the funny story was, I told my brother, I had to ask permission. Hey, Michael, can I talk
Share
about you
this
in my
story.
in this
Yeah.
story? And he said, "What are you writing a children's book for? You don't have kids and you don't like reading." and but I did it. I've written two books in the series. Gale goes on to learn how to snow kite and kite surf, and it's been a really fun project. And I hope that anyone who reads it, not just the children, but the parents who are reading the books, get that lesson that I'm trying to share
Yeah.
about doing something fun, finding
Yeah.
your
And
courage.
resilience too, right? Resilience as well, for sure.
For sure. I mean, there's so many things that fear pops up and tries to pull us down, and we really do need to be resilient in this world and our
Yeah,
lives and in
for sure.
business too,
Yeah, for
in order
sure.
to move forwards.
Now, as a keynote speaker and this wonderful life that you've had, that you've built around things like courage and fear and extreme sports, what's your favorite topic as a keynote speaker when you're standing in front of an audience of, whether it's 20 or 200 or 2000? What's your favorite topic?
I love to share the lessons that athletes know and use, especially extreme sports athletes, how
Mm,
we have found courage to do all these scary sports. I mean, we see the pictures, people jumping out of planes or doing their extreme sports, and we're like, oh my gosh, how did they get from here
so
to
there.
there? What
Yeah.
are the lessons? And I've discovered that those lessons that we learn as athletes can also be used in the boardroom. They can be used in meetings, money decisions, big life decisions. It works everywhere, and I feel like somehow athletes have kind of kept these lessons to themselves, and I love sharing them and telling my incredible stories from sports and adventure in my life as analogies for teaching those lessons of how to overcome our fears.
I love, Jenny, how your entire life is built around the same platform. The thing that resonates with me about you as an individual is that the foundational elements of who you are as a human, you've taken from a young, very young person right through to adulthood. And I would venture to guess that that comes from knowing who you are and being quite comfortable in your own skin. So, congratulations to you for sort of taking that very difficult lesson in life and turning it into something that's fun and enthusiastic and resilient.
Oh, thank you so much. Those are lovely words, Trish. I really appreciate hearing them. And I think it's something that everybody under 50 can look forward to. And everyone
Mhm.
who's turning 50, they say that as we get older, we get wiser. And I really got to the point in my life where those experiences from my younger years where I really felt shame, I'm now proud of because I was resilient enough to get through them.
Yeah.
And I really feel it's my job, my mission to share those, not just keep them to myself, but help other people that are dealing with fear, with trauma, with challenges that are holding them back.
Yeah, for sure. Now, one of the things that we do in our guest blog, and I've got a feeling that with the change and transformation and all the wonderful things that you do in your life, I have to ask if your three words are still the same. They were feel, face, and fly. Wrap up our conversation today by telling us what your perhaps new three words of advice may be and what do they mean for you and your business.
Well, it's wonderful hearing those three words again, and I really remember why I chose those three words and shared them with you. But things grow, things change. It's a new year. Many of us chose new words at
That's
the
true.
start of the year as we
Yep.
enter a new phase. And I think my three words right now are ready, mindset, go. It's like an athlete, a runner on the start line.
Mhm.
We hear those three words ready, set, go. And have you ever wondered what they actually mean? I mean, how did the athlete get ready? How did they get there? What does set actually mean? And how do they instantly go and take action even when they're scared? So much has gone into their preparation for that race. And so I think we can all use that lesson from athletes, ready, mindset, go, as a tool to use in life and business so that we can take action. We can get ready. I can tell you what they mean to me, Trish. Would you like to know?
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Well, ready is making a decision. We're no longer sitting on the fence. Ready, we don't always need a plan or know how we're going to get there. Ready is just making that decision. Set, or what I like to say, mindset, the mindset reset. I mean, we really can't achieve anything unless we have the right mindset. And it's so important to visualize, to believe, and change our mindset so that we can believe that it's possible. And that's where we start to believe that we can do it. But then the last word, the most important, and this is where hesitation lives, is go. Go forward, go scared, go anyway. Because after go, that is when you're going to find your courage. That is
So
when
true.
progress is going to happen. And I think it's a really great countdown to get us to take action when we're hesitating and we're nervous. If we can just say to ourselves, okay, ready, mindset, go. Let's send that email. Ready, mindset, go. Let's make that phone call. Let's ask that boss for a raise. Ready, mindset, go. Let's do that thing that was scaring us and holding us back. It's just a great tool to get us to take action.
I love the visual, Jenny. I absolutely love the visual because I think, as humans, we love pictures and stories and visual representations. And as you're saying, ready, mindset, go, I'm visualizing all different kinds of applications for that in our everyday life. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today and for joining us with, some really great things to think about as we move into a new year.
Thanks so much for having me. And don't forget, fear is something that we all face. But
Absolutely.
courage is a choice.
Oh,
Thanks so
that's
much.
so true. Thank you. And to our viewing and listening audience, I'd like to thank you for joining us today for another edition of Keeping It Real. I'd like to send my personal thanks to all of our sponsors for their ongoing support and ask that you share and invite your friends and colleagues to subscribe to our show, Business Mentorship, Keeping It Real, found on YouTube and your favorite podcast channel. Jenny and I would like to thank you for joining us, and we look forward to meeting you next time when we meet another business owner and celebrate their great idea.